Reddit, I need your judgment. I'm posting on a throwaway because our town is small enough that gossip drifts faster than snow. For 2 years, I thought we were fighting the same fight saving for IVF, teaching ourselves patience, dreaming over floor plans. Then a midnight buzz from a forgotten watch and a locked account cracked the life I thought we were building. What spilled out smelled like wood smoke and peppermint lip balm, and tasted like panic. We live in a Colorado ski town called Cascade Ridge. Picture one stoplight, a diner that smells like bacon at 6 a.m., and winter that sinks into your bones like a truth you tried to ignore. I'm Jonah, 34, a high school science teacher and weekend ski patrol volunteer. My wife, Claire, 32, manages events at the Timberline Lodge, the fancy one on the ridge with a hot tub that steams even when the wind is throwing knives. She runs at dawn, keeps a rotation of peppermint chapsticks, and can fold a tablecloth so crisp it seems ironed by air. It was a Tuesday night, and her Apple Watch was still on its charger when she left for a late-site visit. Around midnight, I was grading lab reports with a mug of cooling tea when the watch buzzed on the counter like a trapped bee. The screen lit up with a fitness app notification. Run complete. 4. 2 miles. Start 11:42 p.m. Timberline Lodge perimeter. Claire isn't a midnight runner. She's an early bird with a thermos runner. Before I could rationalize, a second notification came from a hotel app that she must have installed with her work login. Room 214 mini bar, charge 28. We don't have a room 214. Our cottage has 2 rooms, and they've never charged me 28 at midnight. I told myself it was a client thing. I told myself she paced the hallways while vendors debated centerpiece heights. I told myself the minibar could be sparkling water for a dehydrated bride, and not the bourbon Claire swears off because it makes her cheeks too warm. Then the watch buzzed one more time. A message preview popped from a number not in her contacts. Same code as last time. Fox statue by the back stairs. Fox, room code, midnight. The snow outside our window rubbed itself against the house with a hush like a secret. I muted the watch and stared at the peppermint tube she kept in the little bowl by the door, its cap worn smooth by habit. The next morning, sunlight hit the ridge like a blade. The Timberline's chimney threw a long ribbon of smoke across a blue so clean it made your teeth hurt. I made pancakes because that's what my hands know when my brain has nothing. Claire came in smelling like cold air and hotel laundry, kissed my temple and said, "Site visit went long. You would not believe the floral ask on this one white orchids in January." The way she laughed felt practiced, the way a ski instructor laughs at a beginner's joke for the 14th time that day. I tried to keep the conversation in the lines. "How late were you?" She shrugged, ponytail sliding over one shoulder. "Past 11. Vendors, you know." The watch sat where I'd left it on the counter, quiet, pretending to be a bracelet. I didn't mention it. Instead, I asked about invoices and how her fingers were holding up in the cold. She rubbed peppermint chapstick on without looking in a mirror and said, "We need groceries. I'll make a list tonight." Denial is a talented interior decorator. By mid-afternoon, I had arranged furniture around my doubt. She jogged the sidewalks to keep from falling asleep at the wheel. She used the room key to check on flowers. She drank Topo Chico and stared at budgets. Every time the wind shifted and the house smelled faintly of wood smoke, I inhaled like it could fill the holes. We're in the middle of an IVF journey that already feels like running uphill with glass in your shoes. Claire does the shots with a stoicism that scares me. I do the math and say, "We're okay," even when I'm not. When I told my sister May, an ER nurse with a voice that can triage a panic attack through a brick wall, about the watch pings, she said, "Do you want comfort or do you want clarity?" "Comfort," I said, because I'm not a complete masochist. "Okay," she said. "I love you. And also, please get clarity." That night, Claire's grocery list appeared on our fridge in her neat, rounded script. Lemons, mint, seltzer, 214 towels. At the bottom, she'd added Fox statue, then crossed it out so hard the paper thinned. Teachers know how to dig, because you can't survive a year of teenagers without mastering the art of the gentle search. I started by checking our shared credit card app. Nothing too wild, just a cluster of late-night charges at the Timberline's lounge on nights she'd said she was closing the ballroom. Then I noticed a $9.99 recurring charge we hadn't discussed. The descriptor was generic, Bluebird Services. The email listed was our old joint one, the one we used for coupons and store loyalty programs. I logged in and found a verification code for a Twitter account I'd never seen. Fire Ridge Bloom, locked. The handle meant nothing and everything. Claire uses Bloom in her event files. She loves the word the way some people love wanderlust or serendipity. The account was private, no followers visible, no tweets public. The recovery phone number showed the last 2 digits of Claire's work cell. I sent a follow request from a burner I made in college to help student clubs test social posts. Nothing. But the bio glowed like a flare. Late nights, early runs, pine peppermint. If you've ever watched your partner describe themselves to someone else without using your name, you know the feeling. It's like standing outside your own house and seeing a light on in a room you didn't know existed. Scrolling our photo library, I found a screenshot not from her camera, but a Save the Timberline's internal key fob portal I recognized from a behind-the-scenes tour she once gave me. Room 214 key fob, 00398 last 5 entries, 1137, 1202, 1248, 111, 154. The filter name on the image was Grocery List, PNEG. Her notes app had an entry titled Market that, when opened, was a grid of times and 2-letter initials. The last line read, 111 JM Stairs Fox Quiet Shoes. I stared at that JM like a person in a crime show who knows the twist and can't find the camera. My initials are JMH. Everyone calls me Jonah. No one calls me JM. There's a sous chef at Timberline named Josh Morales, but Claire always complains he thinks microgreens are a personality. May called between ER shifts. I told her about the Twitter handle and the key fob screenshot. She didn't huff or swear. She just said, "Do you want me to be your bad cop or your lab tech?" "Lab tech," I said. "I need this to be real or not dramatic." "Copy that," she said, and when May says she's on it, I believe her. May came up the following evening under the cover of Dropping Off Soup. She's a nurse, they have soup for everything, and sat at our pine table with her scrub top still smelling faintly of alcohol wipes and hospital coffee. She asked Claire about work with the smile she uses on terrified parents in triage. Claire talked events winter charity gala, a corporate retreat with a CEO who tried to smoke a cigar indoors, and then turned the conversation to IVF. "I hate that the meds make me puffy," she said, touching her cheek. She reached for her chapstick, peppermint lifting into the air. "It's like I don't recognize my face." May nodded sympathetically. "Any nausea?" She shot me a look only siblings can read. Later, when Claire left for an 11 p.m., linen delivery. That's not a thing. Even in ski towns, nobody delivers linens after 10. May and I went to the Timberline under the pretense of getting hot chocolate. She had a friend at the front desk, a guy named Marco, who used to date our cousin's roommate in Denver, and still owes May for patching up his snowboarding accident. Marco slid a folded printout across the counter without looking at us. Room 214, master key fob usage. Past 30 days. There were times. There were multiples. There was a line highlighted he didn't highlight. Guest fob 771, events manager override. Authorized. "Is this legal?" I whispered. "It's paper," May said. "Paper doesn't have a morality until someone moves it." We sat in Claire's car because the pine sap smell made the panic feel like a thing I could hold. "What's your plan?" May asked quietly. I felt 12 and furious and ancient all at once. "I want to pretend this was a misunderstanding," I said. "I also want to scratch 214 off every door in that hotel." May looked at me until I remembered who I am. "Then do neither," she said. "Gather. We are not starting a fight without a lab report." I'm not proud of the next part. I set an alert on our credit card for any Timberline charge over 20. I installed the Timberline app on my phone with Claire's saved password. I put a tile in the glove box because I wanted to know where the Corolla slept. Denial and clarity can wear the same coat if it's cold enough outside. 3 days later, our card pinged at 12:19 a.m. Timberline Lounge, 46. 40, and the tile chirped from the upper parking lot, not the loading dock where Claire parks for late deliveries. I drove up in my ancient Subaru, heater wheezing, and parked where I could see the path behind the red fox statue, the kitschy metal thing guests pose with to prove they've been to the ridge. Wood smoke coiled in the cold. The hot tub hissed like it was gossiping. At 12:37, the back door opened. Claire stepped out with someone whose shoulders I recognized before my mind would allow a name. It wasn't the sous chef. It wasn't a guest. It was Mason, our neighbor, the one who teaches snowboarding in the winters and fixes mountain bikes in his garage the rest of the year. He'd helped me cut lumber for the raised beds behind our cottage. He had a peppermint chapstick line in his jacket pocket because he smartly copied Claire's habit. He touched her elbow like the gesture had seniority. They paused by the fox statue. Claire glanced around, then laughed in a way I hadn't heard in months, low and private. He handed her a tiny square object, and she slipped it into her palm like a coin. Guest fob. The door closed behind them, the light above the service stairs cut off. The snow did its quiet thing again, and I realized I couldn't feel my hands. I didn't confront them. I took photos distance shots, no faces, but the outline of Mason's beanie and Claire's braid were damning to me, if to no one else. I emailed everything to an account with a boring name and a long password because the thought of any of it sitting on my phone made me feel like I was holding a lit match. The next morning, Claire made French toast and hummed. She asked if I could stop by the pharmacy for more IVF syringes. I said yes because the best and worst part of marriage is how your hands do chores while your heart sits on the floor. Later that afternoon, May texted me a photo of a credit card slip with Claire's initials in the tip line and a note in a hand I didn't recognize. Next time, 111F. May added a message. Don't ask, but I'm not breaking a law, promise. Also, do not confront without me there. We confronted on a Sunday, because Sundays in Cascade Ridge feel like a courtroom. Everything's closed, but the truths you carry. I set the printouts on the table key fob logs, the lounge receipts, the 1219 alert, the photos by the fox statue. May sat at the end of the table, neutral as a lab tech. I was shaking hard enough that the paper whispered against itself. Explain, I said, because it's the only word that felt like an invitation and a boundary. Claire didn't look at the papers. She looked at May, then at me, and her face rearranged itself into heartbreak. You're stalking me, she said softly. Jonah, you're tracking my car? You're installing things? I've been patient with your anxiety, but this is controlling. It is not healthy. A year ago, that would have worked. Before the watch, before the fox, before the quiet laugh under the hot tub steam. She went on, fast and soft, like she'd practiced in a mirror. Those are vendor comp tabs. The fob is my job. I check rooms before events. Mason is a friend. He's helping me train for the Ridge Race because you're always at ski patrol. I hate that I have to say this in front of your sister, but the IVF hormones make me not myself. You know how I get. Please don't make our home a surveillance state. I opened my mouth and nothing came out. May's voice did. Claire, she said gently, the hormones don't make you write times and initials in a notes app and hide them under grocery list. They don't make you set midnight runs around a hotel perimeter. Claire's eyes went shiny. Wow, she said, looking between us. I didn't realize it was us versus me. The only team here is truth, May said, not unkindly. Claire stood, chair legs scraping pine. I can't breathe in here. She grabbed her coat and chapstick, and the house filled with peppermint and winter. At the door, she turned and said, If you loved me, you would have talked to me before you assembled a dossier. I wanted to cry, and I wanted to laugh, and I wanted to go back to a Tuesday in August when the loudest thing in our kitchen was the click of the old clock. If you loved me, I said, you wouldn't make me argue with my own eyes. The door shut, soft as a lie. I thought May would hold my hand and tell me to breathe. Instead, she pulled a manila envelope from her tote and slid it across like a croupier on a fair table. Inside, a printed thread from Fire Ridge Bloom to a locked follower named Ridge Ghost, mostly DMs and short missives about breathless nights and small rooms. Each image had the same cropping a corner of a fox statue, a boot print in snow, a minibar receipt with the tip written in a hand I now recognized as Mason's, And there undeniably was a selfie of Claire at an angle I know she hates. Peppermint chapstick between two fingers like a prop, a caption under it. He thinks the lab bills are bleeding us dry. I think affection can be a different currency. I didn't know if she meant me or Mason. It didn't matter. How? I croaked. May shrugged, the way only a woman who's worked ER nights for 10 years can shrug at paperwork that could detonate a life. Her Twitter was locked, but she reused a password to protect something she wanted to be seen by exactly one person. She sent a DM to the wrong saved name Ridge Ghost, and Ridge Host are a letter apart. The latter belongs to Marco's friend who runs IT at the hotel. He owes me one because I kept him from losing a finger last winter. He didn't forward anything private, only what was sent to him by accident, which, according to our lawyer friend in Denver, is not wiretapping. It's a misdirected message. He deleted it afterward. I asked him to write an affidavit, and he did. You got a lawyer? I said, dizzy. We work in medicine, May said. We learn to call the specialist early. I sat very still while the floor rose and fell like I was standing on a slow wave. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. Because every time I do, May said, eyes soft. You choose love over evidence until the evidence makes you bleed. I needed you to see enough that when I showed you more, it wouldn't feel like I was placing a story on your chest. I wanted to gather without alerting either of them. I didn't want you to blow up a confrontation with no plan. She slid one last sheet forward. A letter addressed to Timberline Lodge HR, outlining policy violations for events manager Claire H. Using guest rooms without authorization, facilitating access to a non-employee, Mason, and billing alcohol outside approved event hours. At the bottom, Marco's neat signature. Next to it, a second letter from a Denver attorney explaining how to temporarily separate finances during IVF when one party is suspected of marital waste. I laughed, a short, awful sound. You're terrifying. I'm useful, May said, and took my hand. Also, I love you, and I'm sorry. The next 48 hours felt like weather. Blizzards, then calm. May drove me to Timberline to meet HR in a glass-walled office that smelled like printer toner and grief. I didn't want to ruin Claire. I wanted someone to tell me I had imagined the fox statue and the peppermint and the fob numbers. HR did not tell me that. They nodded as I slid the documents across. They traded looks that said not the first time, and they said, we'll investigate. We appreciate that you brought receipts, not rumors. At home, Claire started the silent treatment. Then the love bombing. A bouquet arrived with a card. We're stronger than gossip. Dinner tonight? See. When I ignored it, she switched to fury, texting May, you've always hated me. May texted back, I hate what you're doing to my brother. Claire called my mother, who told her, bless that woman. I can't medicate Jonah's eyes for seeing what's there. Mason knocked on my door once. He stood on my porch like a man who wants to fight and doesn't know how. It's not what you think, he started. You're sleeping with my wife in a room I can triangulate by scent, I said. Please go. When he didn't, I closed the door, turned the deadbolt, and sat on the floor until my hands stopped buzzing. The house smelled like pine cleaner and the ghost of peppermint, and I thought about all the times I'd used that chapstick without knowing whose mouth it might as well have been. That night I slept at May's because the bed felt like a lie I was too tired to keep making. She made soup because, of course she did, and we ate with the windows cracked to the bitter cold so the wood smoke outside could come in and make the air feel like a place instead of a problem. The next day, HR emailed, Claire is on administrative leave pending investigation. Please direct all further correspondence through us. I didn't cheer. I forwarded the note to our Denver attorney and sat with the kind of cry that doesn't make sound. There are 1,000 satisfying movies where the wronged spouse stages a revenge reveal under fairy lights. Real life is forms. My lawyer asked for a temporary separation agreement with financial hold, so our IVF savings couldn't be used for hotel rooms and late-night bourbon. I made a spreadsheet of every expense from the last 6 months, and Cry laughed at the row that read petroleum jelly for ski boots, because who knew Vaseline would be the least slippery part of my marriage? I did not post the screenshots. I did not text Mason's mother. I did not set the fox statue on fire, though I fantasized about it. I emailed the Timberline GM a calm, boring letter stating that I would not be responsible for any debts incurred under Claire's employee account, and that any communication about unsafe behavior should be directed to our lawyer. Claire had hinted at filing something like that after the confrontation. The letter was a seatbelt in case she tried. Edit. A few people who know our town will guess who we are. To them, yes, HR moved faster than I expected. And no, I didn't ask for that. I asked for a boundary. And a boundary looks like a locked door and a piece of paper filed in a drawer you hope to never open again. Also, Mason left town for a week to visit a friend in Taos. The rumor mill says he won't be teaching snowboard lessons this season. I didn't call anyone. I didn't have to. Timberline has a fox statue. It also has cameras. Claire texted me 3 nights after the HR meeting. I'm sorry. I was lonely. IVF is hard. I stared at the message until the words lost meaning, and then found it again. Lonely is a real thing. It isn't a keycard. I replied, "We'll handle logistics through counsel. Please don't come by without notice." It was the most adult sentence I've ever typed, and it tasted like metal. We haven't decided yet whether we're divorcing or separating with counseling. That's not me being noble. That's me not trusting my own brain when it's loud with loss. May says grief sounds like a fire alarm you can't find the button for. For now, Claire is staying with a friend near the base. The cottage smells less like peppermint. Sometimes that makes me sad. I took down the grocery list and put it in a folder labeled seatbelts. Not evidence, not grievance seatbelts. Things that kept me in my lane when my heart wanted to crash into the median. The Apple Watch is in a drawer. The fox statue still stands behind the hotel, catching the kind of sunlight that makes tourists believe in magic. When I drive by it, I keep my eyes on the road because every story has props you don't have to wrestle with to move on. I don't have a hero arc to offer you. May did, quietly, what I couldn't do alone. She gathered without making herself the center. She didn't yell. She didn't slander. She held paper to light and asked me if I wanted to keep living in the shadows. The twist wasn't that my confidant betrayed me. It was that she'd been stitching a parachute while I pretended the plane wasn't smoking. Here's the scar-shaped lesson, and you can label it NTA or YTA or info as you like. Love without truth is performance art. Gaslighting is asking someone to ignore what their body knows, what their nose smells, peppermint, what their ears hear, a watch buzzing when a watch shouldn't, what their eyes see, initials in a list that wasn't for lemons. If you're reading this under a roof that smells like wood smoke and something a little too sweet, and your partner keeps telling you you're making it a thing, seatbelt yourself. Gather. Prefer daylight. The lobby looks different at noon than at 1 a.m. Last weekend, I took a patrol shift I didn't have to take. I stood at the top of the ridge where the wind makes your jacket snap and watched beginners write wobbly S's into the mountain. A little kid fell and popped up, red-cheeked, laughing. His dad, maybe his instructor, skied down, knelt, and showed him how to stand with his weight over his feet. It's such a small instruction, and it changes everything. Don't lean back into fear. Set your balance where it is. I went home and opened the windows for a full hour even though the thermostat wailed. The cottage filled with air that smelled like winter and the pine that keeps living in our beams no matter how many coats of paint you throw at it. I made tea. I texted May a photo of the mug. She replied with a heart and then, of course, a reminder to eat a real dinner. I still keep peppermint around. It's a good smell when it belongs to you.